Hello, I'm Georgina Hayden, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Vietnamese inspired beef, maple and coconut stew. It's really simple to make and it's absolutely delicious. And like with most recipes, the quality of your ingredients is really important. So if you can, try and get some beef shin from your butcher. And of course, the maple you use should be good quality maple from Canada. So I've got 4 cloves of garlic going in here. I'm just going to finely slice them. What I'm going to do is pop my pan on and get some heat on there, because you want to get some nice colour when you're searing your meat and your onions and your garlic. Any flavourless oil will do. This is veg oil. You want a couple of tablespoons in there. You need to have a layer of fat to get everything nice and toasted. So I'm going to add the garlic to the pan. I've got 3 red onions here, and I'm just going to keep them in sort of wedges. I want there to be a bit of texture. And actually, depending on how I'm feeling and what's in season with the stew, I might add other veg to it as well. You know, little carrots work really well. They add a lovely sweetness to the dish. See this as a base in a way. I'm gonna add these in, try and caramelise them a little bit and get some nice colour on there. So, today I'm using beef shin, and beef shin's a great cut of meat. It's not that expensive, and because the fat is marbled through it, it becomes really tender when it's slowly cooked. So I'm just gonna remove the slightly chunkier sinewy bits. You want to keep some of the fat on there though, because that's what gives it the flavour and that's what makes the meat really lovely and tender. So the spices we're using are turmeric, cinnamon, star anise and chilli. They're great versatile spices. Obviously, if you don't like your stews and your curries too hot, you can just add a little bit of chilli. In my recipe I've said 1 to 2 teaspoons. 1 teaspoon might sound a lot, but actually it's such a vast quantity of meat that it adds just a nice warmth. I'm going to put the cut meat back in the bowl here. The only other flavours here are tomato, which add a lovely sweetness, fish sauce, which is a classic Vietnamese ingredient, and then the final ingredient, which is actually really important, is maple syrup. And the thing I love about maple is it has a really lovely natural depth of flavour, a richness without being too sweet. So it's perfect for things like curries in a dish like this. I'm going to use a teaspoon of turmeric. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of chilli because I really love a slightly hot, warming curry. I am going to add 4 star anise, which they can smell quite intoxicating, and if licorice or those sort of smells and tastes aren't your bag, you might be put off, but please don't. They just add a lovely sweetness, and they're really crucial as well. And then cinnamon. Cinnamon is a naturally sweet spice and I adore it. As a Greek person, we put it in everything. And again, it will just work harmoniously together. So I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of cinnamon and then a really good pinch of black pepper. Now we are putting in fish sauce, which is naturally quite salty. So the one thing I would say is it's okay to be a bit reserved with the salt, and then you can always add it afterwards. So we'll toss all that together. Don't worry too much about being, methodical. You just want to give the beef a nice coating before you add it to the pan. And before we put it in, I'm going to show you one more flavouring, and it's lemongrass. And the great thing with lemongrass is you don't actually have to do much with it. You just bash it and it releases the oils and it'll just impart amazing flavour into your curry. So I'm going to give it a light crush in the pestle and mortar. There you go. As you can see, it's split and all the insides are now exposed. So I'm just going to pop those in and I'll give that a couple of minutes just to fry and release its flavour. The onions and the garlic are looking great now. They've got lovely caramelisation going on, lots of stickiness. And we're just going to add this to the pan. Spoon in all of the spices that have been left in the bowl. You don't leave any behind. And just turn the heat up and try and get a bit of colour on the beef before you add the liquid. And I wish you could smell it. It smells so good already. Before I add the tomatoes to the pan, I'm actually going to stir in a bit of tomato puree. And you want to stir in the puree for a minute or so before you add any liquid, so it really cooks off the concentrated tomato. As you can see, I've turned the heat up on this and it's getting some really lovely flavour. There's gnarly brown crispy bits on the bottom, and that is good. Don't be scared of anything that catches, because actually, once you add the stock, that's going to add incredible taste to the stew. And just to give it another really good stir, make sure the puree coats all the beef And what we do now, we'll add our chopped tomatoes to the pan. And then I've got some beef stock. There's about half a litre in here, but you want to use half stock, half coconut milk. So sort of gauge it. Turn the heat up to high to get it really boiling. And then the next thing I'm going to add is coconut milk. I've got a whole tin just to make it nice and easy. And continue to leave it on high heat. You want it to get it bubbling before you put it in the oven. And then we're going to add the last few ingredients, and that's it. So fish sauce, I'm just going to add a couple of tablespoons, and I promise you won't taste the fishiness. It'll just enhance it a little bit. And the same goes for maple syrup, actually. The maple isn't a classic Vietnamese ingredient, but it's completely natural. And the thing I love about maple is it's just a gorgeous balancer. That caramel undertone isn't overpowering, works really well, the spicy flavours, and it just works harmoniously within the dish. So add 3 tablespoons. So I'm going to pop the lid on, turn it off the hob, and I'm going to place it in the oven for 2 hours at 150. So it's not a very high temperature, and you don't want to blast it too much because that beef, you want it to melt away and to be really tender. So after a couple of hours, it'll still be quite loose and quite wet, and that's great. And you can eat it like that, and you can have it over noodles, and it can be a soup, and it's glorious. Or take the lid off, whack the temperature up to about 180, and then just leave it to really caramelise and richen and develop loads of flavour, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to plate it up. Right, there we have it. As you can see, the beef, all the bits that are poking out have got lovely brown and gnarly, and the flavours have just reduced, and it's really, really rich. So here I've got some mint and some Thai basil, and I've cooked some jasmine rice as well. So I'm going to plate one up and just show you. I have to say I adore rice, and I love all the variations, anything aromatic. I'm going to go in with my stew. Here we go. Gorgeous. Get some of those onions as well. So much flavour at the beginning when we were caramelising them. Beautiful. So tear over some herbs. And if you can't get Thai basil, actually, do you know what? You can use regular. It's still gorgeous. I think these things, don't be too prescriptive. Sort of do what you feel. And then I just like to serve it with a wedge of lime. And actually, if I was being really honest, I'd probably serve it some extra chilli as well on top. So there we have it. That is my Vietnamese-inspired beef, maple and coconut stew. Don't forget to follow Maple Canada UK on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook for more cooking inspiration. I'm going to tuck in, and I really hope you enjoy it too.